Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Good day to all of you. So, to those in the chat, Sunseer, Zerg, On Booth, Drusik, Hoax, Valdo, Nico, Melanin, Odd Me, Merely a Machine, Wayne, Adam. How are y'all doing today? Oh, this is depressing. Let's get some good songs on or something a little bit better for at least the moment. Yeah. I am not on Twitch. I only stream on YouTube. Menace, good to see you. Lala Nose, good to see you. Thank you for being here at work for this. Well, hopefully you'll get a little chance to run it there, Menace, right? Seraph, happy birthday to you. I hope yesterday was wonderful for you. I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good that we're here. That we're here at all today because I've had quite the week. So the major thing that occurred, which was very distracting, was that the standing desk that I've had and has been my trusted friend and confidant for many years has unfortunately well, it's seen better days, and I learned that the hard way this week, in that just one of the motors seemed to be having problems. So resetting the thing over and over again and trying to get it to work, and then one side would go up but then the other side wouldn't, and had to like take the monitors off the thing, and then it would like work for like half a day and then it would stop working again, and the same thing. I almost dumped both of my monitors twice because like one side of the desk was going down like during the reset. It kind of goes all the way down to the bottom, then has to go all the way up to the top, but so I finally got it to a point where it's not fixed, but it's I got it to a standing position that's level, and that way I can at least continue to use it. And I've just decided I'll never try to move it again. Is essentially what happened. So that was one thing. And that was like, a couple times during the week. In fact, a lot of times during the week, it was a thing. And then also, did you ever hear of like, especially with people that have like pets, like this innate fear that everybody seems to have in regards to cutting their nails and cutting the quick? Well, for me, I got a first-hand experience of it. Not myself, mind you, but unfortunately, the groomer that we have, or that we go to, she had an unfortunate accident, and well, let's say it gave me a first-hand experience as to what to do and also what to expect if your pet's quick does get cut. It's a lot of blood, I'll tell you that. Luckily, she's okay. We luckily I live very, very, very close to my veterinarian, so we were able to get her there very quickly and get everything taken care of. So hold that thought there, Zerk, because I actually think there's something there's a lot to that. Well, okay, so I didn't do the cutting, right? But I did do first the witnessing of the blooding, and then having to, because it was a mobile groomer, and they've always been really good. I mean, I've used them for years now, but they well, let's just say, like, once it occurred, we were both kind of in a situation where we didn't know what to do. So they had some like quick stop that we attempted to use, but it didn't really do the job very well. So I kind of formed with gauze and some little twine I had around, like a makeshift tourniquet slash bandage thingy type thing, and was able to, kind of keep it from bleeding too much until I got her to the vet. And then from there, they took care of it. And I knew as soon as we got there that everything would be, cool. But, yeah. So the point of that story was, it's not as... I was under the impression that, like, if you cut the quick, man, that's it. The dog or the cat or whatever is done, right? No, the dog wasn't hurt at all. I mean, aside from the quick getting cut, for those who don't know, like, there's, I guess, within their nails, they have like a very significant vein or something, I don't want to misrepresent what it is in its entirety, but it can allow for significant blood loss very quickly, especially if not taken into consideration. So it's like important that if that ever happens, like, they have to try to get that taken care of as quick as possible. She's fine now. She's back to normal and she's doing her thing, right? But the point of what I was going to say is that it doesn't quite happen as fast as I originally believed it would. Like I was under the impression that like if it happened, like man, that was it. That was the end. But actually, it wasn't too bad. It was, we got her there and it was an experience. I'll say that. Scary at first, but now I know if it ever happens again, I'm much more equipped to handle it. How's that? Again, Floppy, I don't know the specifics of it, so you might know better than me. I just know that there's some kind of real significant issue should that occur. But it wasn't as I had made it into a lot more dire of an experience in my mind, having not had the experience physically, and now having had it, I kind of have a better clue as to what, if that were to happen again for some whatever unfortunate reason, that I could handle it better. So it's kind of like seeing the silver lining in an otherwise like kind of, shitty situation. But yeah, not to mention my little boy's sick today, so he stayed home from school. So it's been a week. Anyway, Revenant, how are you? Let's go in and let's see what the beginning of this whole Galleon of Ghouls thing actually is and entails, and then we can very much ascertain what exactly, what's the process moving forward? Is it just one mission, or is it like I thought it was an event of some sort. I know that we go on this thing. I'm going into this blind because that's kind of how I like to do things,
An instigator cowers somewhere in the bowels of this ship.
Oh, you only get an ogress.
Find and capture the wrecks.
I mean, Floppy, wouldn't you say at this point pick someone with high armor? So damage instances don't matter? Or can you not use your abilities?
Come out, wherever you are! Little troublemaker! This Tenno has a present for you!
So you're saying at this point I should be looking more in the lines of like an Aris or something. Hello, Gemma. Hello. This have to be a sneaky little snake here, huh? It's a lot of heat damage, buddy. So what exactly is the point, say, of the energy bar? It's just because they can't get rid of it? Search for the instigator ghoul. Okay. Oh, is this him? Oh, no! No more poison. Stop the poison. How are they able to suppress our Tenno? Curiouser and curious. Oh! That was extreme. This is actually kind of fun. Warframe doesn't really ask you to really use your movement for anything in particular, you know, anymore. It's just like we've become such gods that you can't even. All right. That we don't really need to be ninjas anymore. Would people agree with that statement? Oh, that's perfect. Damn, I should bring shade too for this, huh? Hello. Oh, you son of a bee. Damn, that's a lot of toxin. I don't like it. Maybe if I get in front of him? Or is he wise to that game? Excuse me. Oh, no, sorry. Pardon. I'm like really going for broke here. I probably shouldn't, but I am. Hurry. No. Come on. Okay.
Come home to daddy, little ghoul.
Oh, you stopped with your whining. All right, we're probably going to use a different frame. I don't know, but like was it better for speed or armor? Well, I think I'm going to bring shade in though for certain. I can tell you that right now.
You filthy Tenno have saved us both from a future headache. I don't hate you right now.
Okay, now that we got through that, let's see. This event is so mediocre and boring. Luckily, I don't care about it more. Oh, you know what? Let me do this. Copy. That way it'll be a little bit easier for whenever I'm answering questions or whatever. So let's see, what did we, okay, so first. I'm kind of interested to even see, is it just, you know, that over and over? Regret not, maggot. The galleon you raided was headed to an Ostron floating market near Earth. The ghouls would have slaughtered every last one of those filthy peasants, and I know that would make you sad. More instigators hide in the shadows. Bring them to me before they become a problem for you. For motivation, take this blueprint. It uses parts you will recover while capturing ghouls. These items have been delivered to your inventory. Oh, it's interesting. Well, I guess it has to require haulers here, huh? Okay, so let's see. Yes, the ghouls are canon to pre-Second Dream based upon, I do believe, the comic. Whereas they are dealing with a child that's largely Tenno-ish in nature. Let's see. The drop split is ridiculous. Done at 10. Oh, really? I can't wait for that. I think the no ability restriction is just for shits and giggles. Any canon? Pets. So I was thinking is at first I was like trying to get, you know, my scans But now I'm thinking... And that's fine. No abilities, eh? Well, I guess it only makes sense, really, to... Where the hell is it? I don't even think I've really done anything with Norris Prime. 6K health? That's not even very good, is it? Gotta pump those numbers up just a little bit. This is a terrible build, I know, but that was never the point. I don't really care. I never use an Norris for, like, anything, unfortunately, I suppose. I mean, you can take that out for you. That'll work. Sure, why not? That's great. It's good enough. It's good enough, you know? Drip, drop. Well, you know, the other thing, too, is that I guess we're in league with... see, here we are. Oh, man, you know, it's funny. Okay. This is actually going to add some stuff. But it's actually interesting that, like, yet again, here we are in a situation where... I understand. Now, understand. I get it. For the sake of the content and the game, that it makes perfect, complete, legitimate sense. Totally get it. But
Tenno, you
I didn't even see this one.
maggots. My ghouls have betrayed me, stolen my galleons and weapon parts. They aim to attack me and you. So, we both have a problem. My solution, you capture the instigators. Use my favorite instrument of explosive violence, the Ogress. In return, you keep what they stole, and we both crush an enemy. Take it, or leave it.
All right. Given what we know, and I mean, like, everything, shouldn't we leave it? Is there ever a time when the Tenno or the Drifter turns down something that involves killing? Like, is there ever going to come a point? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, even to the point where when they've quote unquote like healed pain with Umbra, or even like Lloyd at the end of Whispers in the Walls, right? It still came on the back of a bunch of killing before, and in the case of Umbra, directly after. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, we are the mercenaries, like, the whole way. So I gotta just keep doing this over and over? Is that? Is it harder? What's this like? Right? Cadus, right? Dude, we kill everybody that... Dude, you don't need... See, like, and the crazy part is there's this... you know, long-standing kind of joke in Destiny, right? Where if you either have a cool-ass gun or can be made into a cool-ass gun, the Guardians will go after and kill you. No problem, right?
Instigator skulks
No problem.
somewhere on this galleon. Find him. Capture him.
But, like, the Tenno, they don't even require good guns. They'll take your shit, dude. They don't care. I should have used rolling guard, by the way. That was a mistake. Fire rate on this is just absolutely fabulous.
Ghouls, remember when you all cried, "Ooh, the ogress is too dangerous"? Maybe. You were right.
I don't mind. I don't mind the ogres. I have a ribbon for it, so it's actually pretty nice. Yeah, but like, so this is an interesting thing, Arabian Weave. Like, that's true. They did, right, train them to be exactly that, to be weapons of war. But they didn't train the Drifter to be such a thing. At least not in the same ways. Maybe as Orican, what do you call it, like citizens. But I don't necessarily believe that all the Orican citizenry were like, you know, necessarily believed or thought to, you know, in the same breath as like the Tenno and how much they just love to kill. But even now that we should be able to make our own choices, our choice is always to just, you know, kick the shit out of everything and kill it.
Didn't see this coming.
That was a great idea with the rolling guard. I need to put that on next run for certain. Beep, beep, beep. What was that? Beth, I disagree completely. In fact, dare I say I have never disagreed with a statement more in my entire existence. I think your handle is absolutely amazing. And I wouldn't change a damn thing. Wait, excuse me. Can you get the hell out of the way, please? See? That's what happens. That's what happens. You picked the wrong... You picked the wrong Warframe for this kind of crap. For somebody else, maybe. Have some luck. Whoa. Pardon me? Like I said, the only thing I will say...
This does not make us allies. Is that understood, maggot?
Awesome. But what I was going to say is that I have to admit that using Inaras, and especially once I put on Rolling Guard, this mission becomes pretty boring to watch. Just saying, because then I really don't have to do anything. I can just roll. I mean, that really, now we screwed up everything. Really good suggestion, though. Thank you. Let's just real quick see what other kind of looks do I have for an artist? Okay, nothing and nothing. Nice. I put a lot more work into original Inaras. Like I used the original Inaras, and then whenever I got Prime, like this was whenever there really wasn't a need for me to have Inaras anymore. Speaking of, I wonder if there isn't any like invigorations, is there? Nope. Oh, I don't need energy either? That's a good point, huh? I didn't even think about that.
Don't suppose you've ever been in a pub? This place isn't the same. Too new, too
Pizza.
pizza.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's even better for this mission. In fact, that's perfect. Okay, excellent, excellent suggestions coming from chat here. Thank you so much. Hoax, are you referring to Eleanor's speech? Cohen, I will tell you that is probably one of the least tame or most tame things that I do that is outside of the norm of what other people like. That being said, it's kind of a thing now. It might be a bad one too, but did you ever see, like, think of it for me as like there was a time when the artist Jewel, right, was kind of mocked for her kind of maybe not perfect teeth. But then after a while, it was like just kind of accepted. And then kind of became like synonymous with it, you know, and not necessarily in a bad way, but in a good way. And with my thumbnails and such, it's pretty much the same thing. But I do apologize for the anguish. That's never in my intention. Bum 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 bum. You see what I'm saying? Like now we've really. Now there's nothing. Do like the Inaros unmodded challenge. Oh man, that really makes it incredibly easy. And yeah, I am wonderful. How are you today? We are just doing a little bit of this event, and you know, there essentially does exist somewhat of a cheat code, I suppose. Speed run code. Speed run. That's what it is. We aren't necessarily speed running ourselves because I don't necessarily have the talent for such a thing, right? But I'm saying the right person. Ooh, ooh. Ooh.
Not bad for a Tenno maggot.
So has everybody in chat actually had the opportunity to play this themselves, or just out of curiosity? I'm curious if you'd be willing to share, just to kind of get an idea of how many people have experienced to run themselves. What's he doing there? We'll try to even do. And if you can, you do these with. Wow. Okay. I didn't even look. Did I just get the same part over and over again so far? Oh no, didn't I get them? Boop 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 doop boop. That actually sounds awesome, and it's like one of those purchases that you were meant to make, not necessarily like you didn't even. It's just kind of it's how it was meant to be, because it benefits all. And such a rarity. What even is the weapon? Oh yeah, it's melee. Ooh, ooh. Okay, we need one more handle. I feel like, wow, if I get the handle on the next one, I'd say we did pretty damn good.
Would you like me to steer your body around one day? Yes, I know it's not the same, but it would be fun. I'd get you in so much trouble.
Just yeah, there's a little bit of extra ring to her voice there, isn't it? Love that poster. So good. You can certainly, if you want to link it, yeah. I mean, again, I feel like this event is largely how you want to make it, because if you're just looking to get the weapon and speed run and you just pop on your Naros, load it up. I should have just gotten rid of all my power strength too. I could have just been all health and nothing else. And then you throw your rolling guard on and you're just gonna, this is a level 5 capture mission type, the same thing that you would see,
on this galleon. Find him. Capture him.
Hello, where are you? And it's more of like a scavenger hunt than anything else. Oh, buddy.
Attention, you insolent ghoul corpse! This Tenno will blow up anything that moves until...
Oh, he's down. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Come home to daddy, little ghoul.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably, for like the next run, we could really do some crazy stuff with sprint boosts, health augments. Excuse me. I just came for one person. Not trying to sign any autographs. I know you love me. Mm-hmm. Was this the intention?
This does not make us allies. Is that understood?
It doesn't matter.
Maggot?
Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it, because if you want us to kill, that's it. Oh, let me see this. Let's have a looky. All right, give me access. Oh, yes. I mean, I love it, right? But your Eleanor looks like one step away from being controlled by Wally. I'm just gonna say that from the frontal view. Well, which, you know, it's up to you. You can take it how you want. But I'm just saying she's taken. It looks nice. I like it. Maybe try linking it again, and maybe it won't bug. Oh, let's do. Hold on, real quick. Let's just see what we can.
There's a whole world beyond Holvania's walls. I'll show you around if you
Quite, Zerg, quite.
You can laugh at our primitive ways.
For anybody that wants to show off their fashion, if we are already friends in game, if you want to link your look just like Zerg did, feel free. I'd be happy to show it. And if we aren't friends, if you want to send me a friend request, I will be happy to accept that. And then you can put your look in and show it me then, and show everybody else as well. So let's see, what can we get rid of? That, this, and this. We're going to keep these just for this. Although, I wonder if perhaps the better way to do would be just, no. I never use. Oh, okay. All right. That would have been interesting, but nah. My in-game name is the exact same thing as my channel name. I was fortunate in that regard that it's the D-Siege. It's spelled exactly the same too. The Arabian Weave. How did Kaya time travel into the future? Okay, while I'm putting this little bit of the build together, I would be happy to explain. So, put that on. By utilizing the... By utilizing what we had already essentially done, the Tenno, that is, right? I guess I can probably get rid of that and instead do something better with it, huh? So she used the... Oh, hello. She used the information that she had already had from Albert and Trotty's notes. Okay, so what potentially occurred, or what supposedly occurred, according to her, is that while surfing through the back rooms and internet chat boards and stuff like that, she caught wind of Entrati and some things that people were saying about him and what he could do, abilities that he, crazy ideas and such that made her exceptionally interested in him specifically. So much so that it compelled her to find him. Or at least what she deemed was him. Let's see. what did that end up going to? Oh, boo. Yep, it is better with Humble Intensify. Okay. Fair enough. Anyway, so she comes to actually find him, amazingly enough. Which is crazy when you really think about it. Or at least someone who, let's say, appears to be him. I wouldn't necessarily say 100% that it's confirmed that who she found actually wasn't Trotty or not. But what we do know is that he was supposedly kind of scared, which that doesn't sound like Trotty to begin with. But in the process, offered her the ability to become a Warframe, kind of postulated as an answer to all her prayers, if you will. Okay? And unfortunately, just trying to see here, is there anything that's going to work within that? It ended up turning her into Nova, and further ended up putting her into a situation where now she's, you know, for lack of a better term, trapped in 1999 with the rest of them. However, because of her intellect and having access to Entradi's notes, she is then able to get kind of a baseline of time travel, or if nothing else, a portal to get out of 1999 and into where she perceives other people to have already kind of come from, with the idea of the Drifter as the blueprint for that, based on the discussion she's had with other people and things like that within the group of proto-frames. Okay? So that's where the line of questioning that she ends up going with us comes from. So that, you know, trying to ask us about ourselves, where we come from, any number of little things. I don't really know is there anything else that's really going to do anything at this point that I have, at least. So, how about, yeah, that'll work. No, it won't. So, she starts questioning the Tenno specifically about just that, like the idea of how we get in between both the origin system and, you know, 1999 so effortlessly, and by using the answers that she gets from us in conjunction with the information that she had from Entradi, plus the fact that she was already like a kind of a phenom type student, like oh, let's see what this one. Let's see what this looks like. Oh. Let's just do that. Oh, you've got my color scheme at heart. I like this, actually. I like the idea of the energy kind of coming from her. Very, very cool. Very cool. But, so, speaking of, she ends up taking all this information, and bear in mind, this is important too. In conjunction with all of that, she also has a very unique skill, and that comes from her being infected with the Nova batch of Warframe Helminth. Now, that's most likely very specific. You can make your own assumptions on if that's a good thing or not. Because if it was Entradi, you could look at it as she was always fated to leave 1999 based upon the idea that, you know, this was what Entrati wanted. This is why he gave Kaya Velasco the very specific Helminth batch of Nova, who herself has portal powers and being able to shift between zones and whatnot. And together with all that stuff, she's able to figure out how to get out of 1999 on her own. Now, it's very important to make this distinction. Within the Cumulacrum and within the story that's presented with the Techrod Encore, there is a fail state for Kaya as well that essentially keeps her in 1999. Not because she can't do it so much, but is more because she chooses to stay there for a couple different reasons. One, she kind of takes on the plight of the people there and the group of people that she's around, feeling like kind of like for the first time in a place that she's accepted and even wanted by people, removing her desire to have to leave and get away from this place, right? But you can also, if you take that same analogy and look at it from the perception of the entity that she made contact with, in fact, wasn't Entrati, but was Entrati's copy, which I think you can very much make the argument for with the other proto-frames, specifically when it comes to certain things. I'm not saying that it's complete, but there's an argument that can be made, especially with some of the, within the webcomic. Entrati can do a few things that are, let's say, if he can do them there, it's odd that he doesn't do them in other scenarios. Specifically, the ability to teleport, which is shown in the encounter with Arthur as he's about to sneak up on Entrati and get some level of retribution or answers, if nothing else, for them being turned into proto-frames. Or should I say, being infected and brought into this place. This would be before they were completely turned. And within that, Entrati's able to teleport behind him and shoots Arthur in a very similar scenario way that he shoots us at the end of the Hex Quest. So if you're looking at it from the perception of that the person that she made contact with was instead the indifference, her path out of 1999, while very good for her, may be yet another method by which the Void can utilize somebody's, let's say, not necessarily selfish, but small-minded ambitions for its own gains. Hooks, the only thing I would say with that is that Arthur is he's a well-trained soldier and has Entrati within his grasp right there and then. His prize, the reason why he's there, and the cause of all the pain of both himself and the group that he himself has now taken responsibility for. I would find it very, very, very odd and almost, I would say, negligent for him to be looking at Entrati and be able to allow him to get behind him in that very moment without the ability to teleport, because that's very much what the webcomic seems to imply from essentially from panel to panel to panel. There's some stuff to be filled in there that we have yet to understand. Yeah, that's definitely possible. Ooh, let's see this one. Oh yeah, now this is something more of my. This is kind of a look more of my liking. Not liking, but more in my speed. Everybody knows I'm the monochromatic guy. So I love all this white here. In fact, I have a variation of Umbra that looks very similar to this. Very, very similar to this. So this look right here is absolutely one that I can get behind. So You Have No Guts, I would say it's already shown at least evidence, if not proof, of what you're saying already occurring with the appearance of the stadium in, like, right above Earth, but also the idea that Kylie in the Necrolis is now listening to Party of Your Lifetime, which is very strange, you know. If you look at it from the perspective of things, it would be, even in the context of, say, Party of Your Lifetime would, by all rights, it would be considered like an oldie, like a severe oldie. We're not talking like 20 years ago oldie. We're not talking 30 years ago oldie or 50 years ago oldie. We might even be not talking like Beethoven type oldie. Like, we're talking centuries oldie. Right? Tens of centuries, hundreds. It's tough to say because we don't really have a time on where we're at right now. So this song is incredibly old. Is there another? Yeah. Let's check this out. Oh, okay. This is like I gotta say, I will tell you, I love this Nova skin to begin with. I think this skin is one of the best ones. It's subtle. It's not like overly flashy. Of course, that's kind of how I like things a little bit more subtle. It's a fine look. Well, 18K, how are you doing? Frank, good to see you. Let's see here. What's the good ending for Minerva and Velamir? I failed mine, but I got the good ending, sir, for... Oh, okay, hold on. Do you want to see? I love this. I can show you firsthand what the good ending for Minerva and Velamir is, and I think it's so cute. Like, I just absolutely adore this. And I love the fact that DE has also decided that you're not going to be able to date at least Minerva, and I'm guessing Velamir too. To me, it shows that, like, these two, they're together, and, like, you're not going to get in between their shit. Like, that's it. Look at this.
Life is literally a prison.
Wow, just ruin the moment, Kaya. My God. Have some, awareness. Do you see? Wait, how is the good ending creepy? They love each other. They fell back in love. Or I should say, they just realized what had always been there in the first place. That they were allowing things that shouldn't get in the way of their relationship do just that. And that maybe in this particular time period, you know, for the two of them at least, this is all they really have is each other. Especially with, you know, how there's a real good chance that one, I'm going to tell you a couple things. There's a real good chance that they may have lost their adopted child, Rusalka, forever. And I'm going to go one further. It could be our fault. We may have had an opportunity to save her, but balked on it. Oh, how do you don't like Sarah and Grandma? Well, I can understand that. Well, here, look.
Remember how romantic this city was first time we came?
Yeah. I had to close up your stomach wound with a staple gun.
I just love that, like, now they're all there. Whereas before, everything that they said was like kind of a jab at each other. Now everything's like kind of a unified, like, you can just tell, like, this would be that cool couple that you know, hang out with, that just, like, they just seem to, you know, be right for each other, you know. And it's cool, like,
Hey,
you even
babe,
go into their,
look who's here!
you know, you kind of go over here.
Scaldra weapons. Untraceable. Go ahead.
You know, like her posture's different, you know, like her look, her perspective on things
As
has
you
changed. You know, this is the
First
consequence.
apartment? I gotcha.
You know, they're both happier, they're both less sarcastic, you know, they're just, you know, they've accepted their existence, right?
Your decision, bud.
And I love it.
Whatever will Vel and I get up to alone?
And then there's that. It's a good song too, by the way. Well, all right. So I'm kind of working on something here that I feel like Rusalka is another actual example of, but it was just hard to see that was the case because of the scenario that we were put in. I have this theory that the reason why Albrecht wants essentially is okay with allowing the proto-frames from this time period to die, as, you know, he explicitly instructed during the course of the Hex Quest, right? I keep thinking the reason why is due to the connection that they clearly share with, at least if nothing else, one proto-frame, I'm guessing, or I mean, I shouldn't say that, vessel within the sanctum. And I'm curious to know if by killing them here or allowing them to perish in this reality will thus transfer their consciousness into the vessels in 1999. Now, you can take your pick on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, or it's something that the proto-frames would even want at this point. It's kind of irrelevant, because what we do find from the fail state of Kaya is that she remarks her ability to move between timelines, or conceptually embodied, whatever you want to call it, strands of Kra, apparently is not safe for other people. It's only safe, at least by her calculations, for her specifically. Meaning that even when she makes it out of 1999, there's a very small chance that she would be able to bring anybody else with her without catastrophic consequences potentially coming with it, or maybe even consequences that she's already aware of. This is actually information that's found within the Cumulacrum. Again, this comes under the fail state of if she decides to stay here instead of going to Lorunda, instead of going to Lorunda, right? That's a good song. So let me just head back. I don't necessarily know that it's safe for anybody. I'm just going to tell you.
There's an internet cafe.
I don't know that it's safe for anybody who doesn't have a very, very specific type of invulnerability. And again, I think Kaya is able to bypass the necessity for that invulnerability or imperviousness, however you want to look at it. Yeah, I know you're watching. So, I'm not saying that we should have left Rusalka to die. I'm saying that Albert may have very well been telling us how to save her. That by killing her right then and there during the Hex Quest may have unlocked her consciousness in its, let's say, prison state that it's currently in, and may even allow her to be free of the indifference and even potentially saved in kind of the same way or breath as Entrade is looking at it in the way of the Hex, and may be the exact reason why he says the things that he says to us during the Hex Quest. Kill her. Or he says, he goes, you know, this is the moment. With each cycle, more of it seeps into her. Meaning that every cycle that we go through, that she does not die here, it takes hold of her more and more and more. Maybe we save her. And if nothing else, even if we don't save her in the conventional sense of allowing Rusalka to live a normal life again, to go back to 1999, to be free, by essentially killing her and removing her as an arm, as a herald of the indifference, are we not at least in some way freeing her in that regard? So let's do another run. Oh, I missed some chat here. I apologize. Well, so it's interesting because, you know, if you... I know that it's still possible, but if you fail with Flare, there's a good chance that you're not going to get to see the Flare jump scare, too. So everything, you know, there's a cost for everything. Revenant, that's funny. Double agent, blah, blah, blah.
You traitorous instigator!
Well,
Skulks somewhere.
I think it very much goes to the idea that
Capture him.
none of us are angels. There's a level of demon that every entity at this point has kind of taken up in the origin system, right? And it's the level of that entity, or that personification of where you're willing to say, look at the means
You
or to justify the way because of the mean, or whatever. I'm trying to think of the way. I think I said that wrong.
With the Tenno! Do you know how angry that makes me?
I don't care. That sounds good, Zerk.
What you started, I finish!
And I mean, I've been even thinking longer term in the fact that, like, Flair very much insinuates that a comet of some sort will be the delivery for their grand reintroduction, I should say, into the origin system at the proper moment. Necessary, of course, for the Tenno insurrection, right? And I would have to say that given the whole idea behind, let's say, now hear me out on this one, the floating piece of Earth that still remains, it's now
Right now.
that's now kind of hovering right above the planet, and the fact that by all means, or by all rights, by what we understand, a warframe, a current proto-frame that's going to become a warframe through over time, will arrive upon some level of comet. Are we saying that when Earth gets destroyed, one piece of it will remain, Earth of 1999, one piece of it will remain in the atmosphere of origin system Earth, and another piece of it will find its way through our solar system to thus ever so perfectly come down on Pluto at the necessary moment. I mean, of course, that's just a thought, but it's the only way that the stories that we've been given are able to occur naturally without some entity coming in and moving pieces on the board. Well, I'm just trying to connect the dots and hear me out. So you have Flair making mention of the fact that that Temple is necessary for the Tenno insurrection and will be on this satellite of some sort to come onto Pluto. That is where the terminus is, after all, where the Tenno insurrection occurs, right? And according to Temple, they will be a part of the thing. Now, given that there's already a piece of 1999 Earth that resides kind of within the orbit of actual origin system Earth, and there is another piece that is fated as an asteroid that's going to hit at some point, could we not put the pieces together to say that in some reality, Entradi's desire for 1999 to be destroyed may have even been destroyed to the point where there was only fragments of the whole planet left, one of which has now resided itself above the origin system, and another piece which will then make its way to a very specific point in time in order to create one of the most substantial and significant events within the Warframe lore. Sunseer, yeah, that's exactly what I'm referring to. We can actually go over a little bit of the story, if you'd like.
I left to join with a flamer team already deployed to a nearby hive. Both team and hive were dead when I arrived, killed by tooth and claw. Fearing for my life, I made to leave, and was apprehended by the sight of a low figure blocking my egress.
Did I already get all the parts, really?
Specimen VK7.
Nice.
She prowled forward from the shadow of a shattered, snow-blown hive, her paw prints red with blood. I made to open a comm channel to request assistance. VK7 growled low, and I swear this to be true, slowly shook her head. I did not make that call. She padded closer, and I saw the wound on her side. She turned that side toward me, an act of trust, and a request for aid. I unpacked my field kit and carefully went to work.
I might be saying this incorrectly, so I do apologize if I'm wrong, but Pawn, what you just said, if the Drifter can control time and create realms, what's stopping them from manipulating the origin system? I don't get how they're more powerful than the operator, is the exact reason, well, I shouldn't say the exact reason, but yet another piece of evidence that I offer as to say that Duviri and 1999 are the same. They're the same type of thing. However you want to say, they exist in the same manner in a method that is outside of what I keep referring to, the prime timeline. It's like there's, to me, I keep seeing this one line that the majority of reality experiences. However, because of the introduction of the void and by extension eternalism, by the ability for the void to literally create entire worlds in a moment's notice based upon sheer memory. That's the crazy part. That's what people aren't I don't think are giving enough credit for, or if nothing else, are not giving the gravity to, that what we see whenever Entradi first steps into the void, his own lab, which is intricate in nature, but recreated perfectly based upon his mere thoughts, allows for, within that realm at least, or for those that have the ability to, or have been given the opportunity to create within the void, the kind of power that is limitless. You can create whatever you want, and the Drifter already did that. Not only did they create a whole world, but they created people. But not only people, they created people that have their own desires and feelings and thoughts. And you go around Duviri, you can see these exact things happening in real time. That's not just from a book. And that's what I'm saying, that 1999 so very much resembles Duviri. And I would say the fact that the Drifter has the exact same capabilities within that area speaks 100% to the idea that they are, in fact, the same type of thing. And I would go on even further. I would make the argument that we are told that exact thing by Fibonacci during the Whispers in the Walls. Just nobody wants to hear it. Because 1999 is so real. And so with people that we care about, that nobody can fathom the idea that this place isn't like the original, that this is a copy. Yet everything about 1999 screams copy. You know, the fact that the eyes all over the place, the fact that the eyes literally speaks to us, but only in 1999. You know, like it actually has little things that it'll say to us from time to time, and it tells us the date and shit like that. And that's something that we don't see anywhere else. Albrecht's labs are as real as anything. They're as real as Duviri. They're as real as 1999. Which is to say that if you can make an actual Void clone, a real copy, that Eleanor herself says and questions this, because she's already been in the minds of a bunch of different entities that this is kind of like, this has been relevant with. She says it's possible that these Void clones are created. They don't even know that they're clones. And it's very possible she's talking about herself. $1999 is a, let me get you the exact terminology. I'm going to get you the exact quote. Okay. Lloyd says, the strands of Kra are merely void renderings of the chains of cause and effect, conceptually embodied timelines, if you will. Now, Fibonacci then goes on to say after that, now, don't get me wrong, he's making fun of Lloyd here. He absolutely is. But he goes on to say, Papa's daughter excelled at explaining complicated concepts in childish terms. I see now where she learned it. Essentially, what he's saying there is, he's not saying she's wrong. He's actually saying he's right. He's just saying that you're saying it in a very, very simplistic manner, like almost like to it the way a child would explain it. But not saying he's wrong. And what you have here, 1999, is essentially another effect based upon a cause that was generated. Or I should say a cause that occurred, a necessity, and an effect because of that. Well, Pon, I'm going to do you one better. See, there's another thing, there's another piece of data that everybody, and I know I've been saying this forever, everybody, but a lot of it has had to do with just a ton of bullshit that's been happening in my actual life, being sick, dog problem, computer problem, desk problem, other people being sick. Just it's been a weird month, but the video that I've been telling you that it's coming. It is finally on its way. It will be out, I'm guessing Monday or Tuesday for certain. I have the thumbnail made and everything. And I'm so excited because it actually turned out the way I wanted it, the script to turn out, which I was juggling so many different concepts within the script itself that I was just really scared that it would have been very difficult to follow the entirety of the video because of the different things that I was like, okay, we have to understand this, but also you have to understand this, and you have to understand this, but if you understand these three things, then oh, look how this works. And I was really concerned about that, but I was able to kind of put together a manner that I believe allows all the concepts that I've kind of been hinting at and little things over the past month, you know, at least 3 weeks. Oh, Revenant, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, there's other things too, though. There's other things that, like, if you don't acknowledge the very, very obvious things that are happening in real time within 1999, that's just on you, because, you know, one of the most obvious is we keep going back to it. Now understand, there it was. This radio sure serves no purpose at all, except to do one thing, and that is spout exposition. It's meant to tell you the next part or a part of the story. And in fact, we see that happen during the Hex Quest. This radio that it never pumps out anything but garble, miraculously just starts speaking with aspects of the quest that we needed to know at very, very, very specific places, and that it shuts the hell up and you don't hear about it again. Did anybody actually turn the thing on or anything like that? No, of course not. It just came on its own. So if that wasn't an indicator that there's some level of outside influence that's happening in real time for us to be able to, because essentially during that part of the quest, we're here first. Oh, wait, where are we at? We're here.
Thanks.
Right? And we're speaking to the Hex. Now, you have two ways of going. If you head around this way, as soon as you hit the part with the radio, you'll start hearing it come from right from there about what's going on with Hulvania, and I think the weather. There's some kind of dialogue about the weather. If you come down this way, it's a similar thing, because you have to go out here. You're going to hear it from the left. It comes from here. So, and then, you know, okay, there's that. But then, you know, the fact that Entrati is literally all over the walls, and this eye is everywhere. You know, the existence of the back rooms is just a kind of a doorway on the one end there is kind of sinister in its own right. How is Lubis? I'm not sure. I don't know if I understand the question. Zerg, that would actually be me too, but I don't have hair anymore. I got rid of it a long time ago. The point I'm trying to make is this place dictates the story. This place is not normal. Would you all agree with that statement, if nothing else, that 1999 is in no way normal? And has all kinds of like crazy little, let's say, weird, odd things that probably shouldn't necessarily be within the Warframe story, but yet oddly appear here of all places? Actually, Zerg, that's pretty much what my face looks like. Nice long peppered beard too. You could say that it was intentional. I won't admit to it, but
Who would have known the baking soda volcano?
let's just say that I find
this.
Kratos' look quite satisfactory.
It's creepy, but safe. I guess not too uncomfortable either.
It is kind of creepy here, buddy, isn't it? I second that. How about this, Pon? Did anybody ever consider that the beginning of the Harrow quest, right? I love this. It's everything, it's just all falling into place now. The beginning of the Harrow quest, we don't get a distress call, right? Luvis. I didn't hear the name Luvis either. But you can, I'm talking about during the quest itself, that radio will say things that propel the story forward. And then we'll say nothing but have garbage, right? So, in the beginning of Chains of Harrow, we don't get a distress call. We get a memory. Do we not? It's just Palladino trying to speak with Rel. And I'm not saying that Rel didn't have a very significant, very substantial part in somehow imprisoning the man in the wall. All I'm saying is that I don't think Rel was imprisoned in there, at least at the point that we finally come into deal with the situation. And in fact, Palladino herself says during the quest multiple times, that's not Rel. That's... Now, we still have to account for the idea that the indifference was held at bay. Well, I mean, there's multiple entities that actually say those exact words, but I do find it odd that a warframe, of all things, was used to chain the indifference. And there might be a reason why Rel specifically was able to do it. I can't go any further on that one. You have to play the new war and the Chains of Harrow to find the link. But I promise you, especially if you play the new war first and then play through Chains of Harrow after the fact, something in particular is going to hit you and it may hit you like the same 20,000-ton bit of bricks that it hit me with. Like I said, I'm not saying that my next video is correct, right? But I am saying that my next video is going to give you something to chew on, and I'm giving you a bunch of evidence. And for if nothing else, for you to ponder if I'm right or not. That's where this is headed. Well, Revenant, maybe it wants you to play it again. I can, now would be the time. Oh, you know what? I was told by you, this wonderful, wonderful chat, that we've succeeded. Oh, with one, damn. That's, we got some streamer perks here today. You guys are gonna love it. You're gonna, if you just pay attention to the words that Palladino says, because they're so freaking important, and like they're sitting right there. And I just never did it because we were directed by the story to not do it. But at the same time, we were given all kinds of little titty bits leading up to it the whole way. That's like, hey, just so you know, this sort of thing happens. Hey, by the way, just so you know, this thing happens. By the way, just so you know, this sort of thing happens to the Tenno. And then in the New War, blam. And because of the magnanimous, like, potential of what was being portrayed, no one would ever have even thought about it, and myself included. I mean, how old's the New War? December 2021. Holy shit, that was a long time ago. The New War is 4 years old. So 2021. Oh, like 4.5. Like 4.5. My God. But understand, this is what I love about Warframe storytelling. You couldn't have made this, you couldn't even have said what I'm going to at least propose in my next video without all this additional context with the stories afterwards. And I'm talking, you needed Duviri, you needed Angels of the Zeramin, you needed 1999, you needed Whispers in the Walls, you needed all of these things in order to be able to connect these two little pieces that were there. And it's more like 3 or 4, with a couple more. Okay, I didn't get to see this, but yes, show me some. I'll take some fashion, absolutely. I'm sure people would rather look at other people's look than. And I think I went away from this one a little fast, so we'll put this one on until someone else gives me some more lookies. Oh yeah, that's this one again. I like this. Like my Nova also has that skin because it's just so awesome. It's just one of the best skins. But yeah, but that's what I love. It's like it says to me that there was always a plan. It just required a lot of additional context. And if what I'm saying is accurate, if it turns out to be true, I have to give it, I have to give DE such incredible marks in today's world, especially that they were able to hold off on so many important pieces of the overall narrative to offer a story that, again, if it comes down to this, is fucking mind-blowing in the end. Like, it's crazy. I don't want to tell you guys how old I was whenever I started playing Warframe. Well, you all know I'm like Kratos' age. I know, right? 23. Get out of here. You're in the perfect parts of existence. That's the best. I know, and I get it. That the times outside of us, I don't know, affording things, economy, things of that nature, are not the greatest. I do understand that, and I sympathize because I'm going through it just like the rest of you. Believe me, this month in particular has really been a rough one. But never forget that at 23, like, go out and do something fun, because it's the best time of your existence. It's the best time. Go make something, do something. Make something and do something. Hey, Traderetta. Thank you for that comment. I love it. Oh, here we go. Oh, this actually has kind of a infested, almost like it's, I look at this and I say, this is Arthur in the next phase of his transformation into an Excalibur Warframe. I really, that's what I see with this right here, is like, this is the next, you can see like there's still a lot of the still kind of human type characteristics, but now it's starting to kind of overtake him, you know, to the point where he's looking more Warframe-ish and less proto-frame-ish, right? Zerg, I'm reaching the end of my 40s. How's that? We are coming to the twilight of my 40s. We're not quite there yet, just so you know. 40s are fun. The problem with 40 is you don't have the energy that you have at 20. That's the issue. And it doesn't matter. I worked out from the time I was 18 years old. I started working out, very routine, and I kept it going throughout my entire life. To this day, I still work out every day. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. When you hit when you're in your 40s, 45, it definitely helps. You know, you are less prone to injury. You can function a little bit better. You can still move stuff around. You know, I largely still have the same amount of, I'd say, functional strength that I did in my, you know, my early 30s and stuff. My max strength, hell no, nothing close. But like functional, I can, you know, move in desks and appliances and shit like that. You know, I can still do that for the most part. But I don't have the endurance. At 25, the stuff that I do now would just be the beginning. I'd have a whole, okay, did all this, what's next? Hit me with something else, dude, I'm bored. I thank you. Well, sir, I will tell you that whereas my body has aged, I feel my mind decided not to. It always kind of retained that 18 to 25-year-old, you know, aside from the more logical necessities of, you know, when you grow older, needing to have accountability in certain things and responsibility, things of that nature. Yeah, I picked that up too, but I still like to play with, you know, I have figurines, and every once in a while I will, you know, kind of move Vegeta's arms around a little bit, and he might do a, you know, Gallet gun or Final Flash from time to time. Just saying, I have, you know, I have a lightsaber. It might get twirled often. I'm just saying, things of that nature. Like, I love my toys. I love my games. And maybe I'm like something that says to everybody that when you do get this old, like Beth is saying, like, you know, it doesn't mean shit. Age really is, aside from, you know, your body kind of feeling a little bit different, your mind doesn't not necessarily have to feel different at all. You can still be a goofball way into your elderly years. So, well, I mean, I'm revving and I'm getting there real quick. So, Traderetta, I think we are in a very similar thought process when it comes to the man in the wall. I would even make the argument that based upon what we know from Albrecht and what he said, right? Did we get anybody else? Okay. Based upon that, did anybody ever stop to think that there is no science in the void? Oh, I think Warframe has like the best community. Personally, that's just me. I mean, I'm biased, obviously, for a number of different reasons. But so, JBN, are you a friend of mine on? If you're not a friend, send me a friend request and I will accept it here. If you are my friend, then all you need to do is just essentially just start up a conversation with me, send me a message, and you can link your looks. Just by using that. What's the SCP? I may have already read about it. No, Garrett, understand, I'm not saying that all of the Origin system has no science. What I'm saying is, oh, thank you, I appreciate that. What I'm saying is it possible that the reason why other scientists, when studying the void, found nothing because they looked at it only from the perception of it being science? Like, consider, I want you to just, for just 5 minutes, forget your perception of what you believe the void to be, right? And instead, allow me to offer you an alternative. We know, based on any number of different aspects of proof, that while Entrati is a very scientific person, he is also exceptionally interested in the occult. If you didn't believe that thought, all you need do is look around at all the alchemical symbols, all the different types of just aspects that are associated with demonology, summoning circles, things of that nature. He very much takes on more of, let's say, the persona of the alchemist than he does the scientist. But yet, he's often portrayed as a scientist only. Now, I propose that what if the void is not science, but yet spiritual? Like, what if the void is an indifferent God? And the things that the void has offered to both Albrecht, to the Orokin by use of the finger, to the Drifter in the face of the void, to all these people, is not more akin to that of granting a wish versus anything that I would consider to be more scientific in nature. And thus, is it possible that the void itself is strictly arcane in nature? And thus is in itself an entity that Albrecht has thus utilized by taking a piece of its flesh, literally, but also figuratively. And it's pissed about that because it was an indifferent God that didn't need to give a shit about human beings. But then this one came by, showed itself for half a second. The indifference found it's very weird that it would be here or anything, or the alternative, based upon contact with the void beforehand, maybe seance, things like that, that the encounter with the void was something that was predetermined by the void itself, by hearing the prayers of someone like Albrecht, who himself was kind of a zealot, you know, like he didn't look at things from a specifically spiritual or like a scientific nature, like, oh, we gotta form hypotheses, and if this doesn't work, then we get, like, the way that he describes himself pre-void travel, pre-void trip, pre-Sarah Glass Bell, fumbling into the void. Ijo, hello! Good to see you back with the group again. Wonderful to see you. Is that, yeah, did you oh yeah, you did. That's my mistake. Oh, and if you could, send a friend request through Warframe too, not necessarily through Xbox, even if you are on Xbox, because it's a lot easier from here to link messages and stuff like that. So if whoever just sent me a friend request through Xbox, if you wouldn't mind, just send it through the Warframe thing, because it's, like I said, especially for linking stuff and for even joining groups and things like that for future streams and whatnot. Like, it's going to make things a ton easier. So if you would, do it that way. JBN, yeah, if you wouldn't mind sending that one to me through Xbox instead. Only because I'm right in the middle of the stream. So, kind of the point that I was trying to make is that maybe the reason why scientists, all the well-known scientists of the Orokin, and you know, potentially other groups, didn't find anything in the void, not because there wasn't anything there, but because they were looking at it strictly through the eyes of science and not through the eyes of the arcane. And thus would then, perfect, thank you, would then change the dynamic of everything that we know about Warframe, in the fact that the void could be a being, and thus pumping more into the origin system, even if it doesn't allow for the ability to void travel amongst its groups and whatnot, is not in its own right a kind of poison pill for every single person that exists, because now that the void is everywhere, if the man in the wall did have an intention, you know, again, this is taking into consideration what I'm saying as, you know, a potentiality or even as fact. If that was the case, and say the man in the wall saw Entrati and what he was saying, and maybe even had an interest of his own, and instead of it being this mistake that we all believe it to be, that all the events happened because the indifference took an interest in something that contacted it first. No, again, if we want to, going back to kind of the Bloodborne thing, whenever, you know, different groups would try to contact the Great Ones for power, you know, in dire circumstances. Albrecht was in a situation that was no different. He was in dire straits. He had nothing, and here, let's go check out his story. You know, let's go do it together, you and me, and on all of us. Oh, no 69. Damn. Well, I do think that we're going to head back to the Sanctum at some point. Like, I think we're going back to 1999 at some point. Like, I think that we are headed to Duviri this year again. I think that is the idea that DE has been trying to kind of put out. Is the first run, right, is the establishing run. That brings these areas into existence and allows for a greater understanding of the Necrolisk, of 1999, of Duviri, of all these places before the story goes deeper. Because really, when you think about it, that's exactly what happened here, right? We first got where we come here about the heart. And then we went away. And we really didn't have any kind of real need to be back in Deimos, right? Then Whispers in the Wall comes, and sure enough, a new little area becomes unlocked, right? Well, if we can just, you know, freaking find it. I can tell must have been a while since I've been here. So now we got this brand new area that was what? After the fact, how many years? Let's see. Hold on. So, Heart of Deimos. Would have come in 2020. And that would have been August of 2020. That's weird. All right. And then Whispers in the Walls, where we go back to, is over 3 years later. So I think in doing all this research for my current video, what I did come to understand is I don't feel so bad anymore about us leaving 1999, because based upon what I'm seeing as a precedent from other like things within the story, we're gonna go back to 1999. We're going back to Duviri. Even if we don't go back this time, we're still gonna go back to Duviri. That's gonna happen. You know, because there's things unsaid there. And I'm guessing we're gonna head back to the Zerman at some point too, because there's things unsaid there as well. Right? I didn't see that picture. I'll have to check that out. The black-dyed Arthur. Although I think I may have seen that here. This is the one I want to show.
Jahu. Form. My departure was a day less than any other. When I stepped inside the bell, I saw no crowd through its seriglass, no skeptical onlookers, no regal send-off. They all had given up on me and my paradoxical formulations. The wasted years had all shown the void to be just that. Nothing. No energy, no entanglement, no form. To spacefaring ambitions, a dead end. On the day, my laboratory was mostly vacant of witnesses, most of all of expectation. Only my sluggish attendants, my sagacious Kavat, Kalimos, and of course my daughter. I had raised her alone, but with inconsistent vigor. In those eyes, her mother's, I did see a terrible reflection of a man that did not exist. A brave and principled man about to make history. In truth, he was a void himself, an outcast, a joke, a nothing. Driven by my humiliation, failure had made me bitter and reckless. I would dive into the depths myself to prove them all wrong. I gave the signal. My daughter grasped the lever. Kalimos then belted out a desperate, rasping growl. But it was too late.
So, kind of the point of what I was trying to say is that given the context of what he says there, it's very, very possible that the reason why nobody else found anything in the void is because nobody else had decided to worship the void or offer the void anything or try to contact the void. Rather, what they were trying to do was examine it. They were trying to experiment with it. They were trying to see its composition and what it's made up of and what it could do. But unfortunately, with this in mind, let's see this. Oh, I know I'm a monochromatic person, right? But I do have like a deep down secret infatuation with the color purple. I love purple. It's one of the few colors that like I can. If you see my Saren, you'll have already known that I can periodically, at least my female frames will typically take on the purple look. I don't know if I've ever done it with a male frame yet, but it's not necessarily it's. We could give it a go, and it wouldn't be a problem, you know. JB, like Stefan's voice is amazing, and it's perfect for Entrati. Like, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's just the absolute perfect actor for the position. His voice is so. It fits the character that I'm looking at, first of all, which I love. I think that's amazing. But it's cryptic and eerie, and it has this nature to it that really does. Of all the other things, like, you don't ever know, is it him or is it the void? Because they have this kind of like similar tone to them that masks that sort of thing better than other tones does. Maybe that's, yeah. Let me see it. I'm down to see some more purple. Throw me purple. I love purple. But you kind of see where I'm going with this. And let me ask you, based upon everything that you all know, because let's be real, everybody in this chat is very knowledgeable about the lore of Warframe. From what I've presented here, I'm not saying that I'm, like 100% right, but does it not kind of like appear more apt to believe the way that I'm describing it versus it just being this thing, this place that for whatever reason no other scientists, even though, like, let's be real, the science that was going on in the Orokin, in the origin system and amongst the Orokin hierarchy and their people were pretty substantial, even if you look at it from the perception of what happens to Entradi after the Void incident, in the fact that they were able to, like, pretty much remake his face like from scratch, and it looks perfect. Like, we don't have that technology in our current world. So it's like there were obviously, aspects of science that were not just advanced, but even like unquestionable marvels available at the time. And yet these other scientists who are so accomplished in so many other fields looked at the Void and literally nobody else found anything? How can that be? Stefan Rudnicki, yeah, that's his name. Super cool person. Well, Frank, that's the thing. Maybe you can call it whatever you want. Magic, the Void, like a god. Once it gets outside the realm of science, it's all arcane. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, it's the delivery system by which it comes. And, I think that one of the games that I actually got to playing was the game Nine Souls. It's amazing that how many games, like, you play one game and it really does kind of give you additional insight into other, like, games where you can see there's these similar concepts that are trying to be portrayed, but just in different ways. And within Nine Souls, there's the idea of, like, they have, like, the yin and the yang, right? Like the duality that exists in the same breath, really, within Warframe. The mind and the body. Ballast himself actually, like, kind of describes it, like, and it's really strange because in Nine Souls, there's kind of a tween state, a between state between the yin and the yang, right? And what it manifests itself in is this kind of like a light teal energy. It's kind of the space between the mind and the body, if you will. And I find that so interesting, especially the color, because in every way that we understand the mind and the body and the tween, you could absolutely apply that to the Void. And I find it so interesting that Void energy is largely, it looks like a teal color. It's the same kind of a thing. It's brought back right here. And I can't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, my perception of Whispers in the Walls was completely off. In that the Whispers in the Walls aren't the voices that we're hearing. The Whispers in the Walls are the writing on the walls. This is what the Whispers are. This is the language that it presented to Entradi based upon what he wanted. And within this information that just lights up through Void energy, and this was what was given to Entradi as his blueprints to be able to do all the things that he can do with the Void. These are the Whispers within the walls right here. these are the things, and it's the reason why this same grouping of information keeps being shown over and over and over and over and over again. It's like wherever Entrati went, it would show up there. Otherwise, why would Entrati keep writing the same shit on every single wall over and over and over again? Like, what's the point? It's the same diagram. It's the same information. What would be the point of you scraping this all out here and then walking up here and scraping it out again here and then, oh, hey, I gotta walk up here and scrape it out again? It's not Entrati who put this here. This came with the place. And it's meant to, at any particular point, keep showing him the exact information that he asked for. I mean, you could technically do that. And, you know, the funny thing is, Entrati may have, in fact, went into the labs and said, show me a penis, right? I know, weird. However, I feel like there's a couple things here that you could probably make the argument that there's at least penis-type relations to. So maybe even then, you know, Lloyd wasn't around, that type of thing. You know how it goes. And there you go, JPN. That now we get into the same type of thing that happened to Parvos. The voice of desire that he kept hearing. It's a god. It's a real thing. And it's very similar to Odin of Bloodborne. That it exists in people's minds as a kind of voice to kind of direct them to do what it needs them to do. Floppy, absolutely. Absolutely.
One must make the best of things.
You better, buddy. Shit's gonna hit the fan all too fast. It could be related to any earthly emotion, actually. So yeah, I would say that would be on the table as well. And you know how we were talking about earlier, how like, you know, we go back to different places and there's different openings and shit. Like if we come back to Whispers on the Walls, like eventually in Entrati Lab, eventually we're gonna open these doors. Something's here. It's just a matter of when. There you go. Zerg, it's all coming together, isn't it? The pieces are finally being able to be fit together correctly because we've been given enough to actually make the relevant certain things that needed addressed. There it is. We've essentially now. Okay, so there was the one thing I didn't actually say yet, but it's important that I bring it up here. Within Whispers in the Walls, Fibonacci says something in particular. During the fight with the fragmented, I imagine some people may already know what I'm talking about. Because if you've seen this line and you understand it, you know that everything that happened within 1999 was most likely the fault of the Tenno. Right? Let's see, where's it at? Let's see if I can just put the... So while we're fighting while we're fighting the fragmented, well, I guess it's the suzerain in the quest. Fibonacci, who, let's be real here, Fibonacci, who's been pretty accurate about a bunch of stuff, because, you know, which is odd in its own right, how this freaking fish knows all this crap. You know, just put that off to the side. Fibonacci says to us, the sodding indifference seeks a path through the walls, and then, Tenno, through you. Keep it at bay. Now, I'm going to sit there and just, for a second, glance over the whole keep it at bay thing, which is exactly what Rel, you know, let's just go past that. But the indifference seeks a path through you. It's been using us to get everywhere. And furthermore, the Kalimos sequence may have brought us here for that exact purpose. Not to save Entrati, but to find him. And you might be asking yourself, well, how is that possible? Well, what's really interesting is Albrecht is just fine until we make our way back to 1999 for the first time in Whispers in the Walls. That's when the indifference shows up there. After that, everything changes. In fact, I would say the world, the origin system, everything changes once we go back that first time. And the reason why we go back in the first place is due to the indifference messing with the transference stream. See, I think what the stuff on the walls is, and that what it's saying is it's basically, it's made its way into this plane of reality through the walls itself, which is the instructions that it gave Entrati on all the walls themselves. And now it seeks a path through us, which it most likely has done. And the consequences of 1999 are because of that exact thing. Because up until that point, everything was supposedly fine in 1999. We mistakenly go back there. There's nothing within the Kalimos sequence that says we're supposed to go back to 1999. And in fact, Lloyd tells us that the reason that we go back to 1999 is because the murmur interfered with the transference. All we were supposed to do at the time that we hook up with the Palm 2 is transfer into the vessel. At this point in the quest, it doesn't matter, because you can choose either one. Well, I mean, Floppy, that's through a particular way of looking at it. But what I'm saying is you're saying that the implication is that it needs to break through the walls and then through us. But what I'm saying is it's using the walls. The walls are the way it's making its way through. So, Pawn, according to the Warframe 1999 ARG, yes, without question. Because we as people, as the people who are controlling the Tenno and the Drifter, are the ones that are asked by the indifference to spread the code. I very much feel that in 1999 it was supposed to be a mistake, and I'll go you one further. I think that was what Entrati had done. The whole point of him going to 1999 was because it couldn't get there easily, because Entrati put himself in the same type of recursive timeline that Ballas put the operator in during the New War. And it shielded him from the indifference. The indifference could not find a way into Entrati's 1999 until we made our way into 1999, and then it hopped the ride on us. And if you're wondering if that's the truth or not, consider that during the quest, once you first get into 1999, all you need to do is walk to the back of the subway and you'll see your operator's indifference looking right at you, laughing at you. And understand, this is just my take on it, based upon everything that I've kind of researched and looked into. Everybody's okay to have their own take. Nothing I've said is carved in stone like what we saw on the walls here. I could be 100% fully, totally, completely, unequivocally wrong. But I do feel like I have a shit ton of data to support what I'm saying. Well, it all depends really on what you consider we end as we begin to be referring to, okay? Because it actually has a couple different meanings. And it's crazy enough, it's in a lot of ways it's reiterated amongst a bunch of different groups as well, just in a different kind of way of saying. But I think in the mind of Albrecht Entrati, we end as we began means that even by his death itself, right, the indifference goes back to being whatever it was. So we end as we began. I end as I was, be it meaning that he ends as the scientist that he was beforehand, the nothing, or that, you know, and potentially he ends as he began, Ash, you know. But I think the indifference looks at it, that same phrase, in a very different way. Because of its nature with void mimicry, void copies, a kind of a hive mind-like mentality, especially when we see in this very space the different aspects of the murmur all being congealed together into forms. We end as we began seems to largely insinuate that the indifference is going to take all of its clones and come back together as one. And that may even include the operator, which could be the reason why the Drifter was able to go back to 1999, but the operator could not under any circumstances, because by doing that, it would essentially allow the indifference to just take the operator and potentially reintegrate it back into the whole, beginning, you know, or ending as it began, back to the one that it wants to be, that it keeps talking about in all different types of iterations. And really, like I said, it's very strange that this type of coming back to one, or this everybody, all things as one, is a thing that is reiterated so frequently within Warframe. You know, Ballas's armor, that they're saying was all as one. Then we have like the nature of both the infestation and the tech rot, kind of saying, as Lizzie herself speaking directly to us, trying to reiterate, hey, we are as one, and Eleanor kind of saying a very similar thing, and we hearing kind of even a similar thing in the origin system when it comes to the tech rot. And when you think about the Jordis golem and how that integrated a cephalon, and you start to see how the indifference is, this mantra it seems to be permeating everywhere. And it makes you wonder if, based upon what I was saying before, and the fact that like the void is being pumped into the origin system, maybe not in a way that people feel it like they did on the Zeraman, but with enough void being pumped into the origin system, how much before the parent or the people that live within it start to exhibit the same type of symptoms that the parents on the Zeraman did? Do you see where I'm going with all this? I'm interested in seeing this, sir. Oh, Emo, I didn't see this. If you're sick, don't even worry about it. Just use the stream as a nice way to doze in and doze out whenever you feel necessary. That's perfect. I've heard that my voice isn't completely nail scratching in nature. So if it helps at all to ease your suffering, please feel free. Zerg, yeah, I think you're onto something here in that these loops that keep going have a purpose, and they have a cost. Well, it's a very hard thing to. No, we didn't. No, we didn't collect $200, and that's not fair. My voice is filled with healing. Of course, that was kind of like a lie from Andrade, so I hope it'll take it that way with my voice. Now, understand. A lot of what I've talked about today is going to be in this video, but I will be this week. It's coming, I promise. It's done. Well, it's not done, but it's to the point where there's no going back now. I can't change anything anymore. It's where we're at, and provided I don't have some freaking emergency in the house here, the screen doesn't fall over, one of the legs of my standing desk don't just decide to crap out. I don't know. And Zerg, doesn't that in its own right say that, kind of in the same breath, that like the things that are occurring in loops are still affecting the things that it shouldn't be affecting, even if it's necessary for the grand scheme of things, if you will. And what are the long-term effects of that? If things change, what do you lose? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, all we talk about with the new loops and stuff is what we gain, but we never discuss what do we lose. Are there people that just disappear forever because of a certain thing that occurred in one loop? Do they have no memory of them at all? Do they literally just are removed from existence in all way, shape, or form, even in the minds of people? Oh, well, that's perfect. I'm glad that everybody just enjoys, listening to the stream. That's my main thing with these streams. I I don't really have a lot of experience with streaming aside from just sitting here and like talking to you all. So I always worry about like if the stream is actually enjoyable enough that people would want to come back and you know, legitimately come back for a second one. So if they are enjoyable, thank you. In what regard there, Guillaume? Like as far as information from, like what Kaya says during temporal Archimedia? JBN, yeah, that's exactly my point. What you just said right there is exactly my point. Like, what do changes within these things, what do they mean in the grand scheme? And what do we lose? Obviously we gain, but what do we lose? And if we don't know what we lose, what if we lose something pretty damn significant, but only realize that we lost it a couple cycles in? Is there a way to go back to an older cycle, or are certain things lost forever? And if that's the case, is that something that people can manipulate moving forward, especially someone like the Void Entity, like you know, Man on the Wall? I'm trying to see if there's something specifically regarding just temporal Archimedia, because I don't off the top of my head, I can't 100% remember what's just specifically within that. So I don't really want to speak too much on it without actually having some kind of context. Otherwise, the thing I say could be completely off. Well, see, that's kind of my whole point. I like this. Again, like what you're saying here. Example, when there's a tech rot outbreak, all timelines is having at the same time, meaning we aren't cycling, we're moving to other frames. I would actually say that in itself is more evidence that 1999 exists outside of what I would consider all timelines. And I propose that it's even more likely that 1999, while first being used as a kind of, let's say, escape, was also thought about in its potentiality in for what it could offer. So Entrati chose that specifically. And then by kind of using it as his own little scientific playground is exactly what it is. And in fact, that may have even been the original goal, and then the indifference having taken over, something that we see in that Whispers in the Wall, piece, may have then even corrupted what Entrati wanted to do with 1999, because now it has access to everything. I would offer that if the people from Duviri came to the origin system, it would be no different than Kaya coming to the origin system, provided that whatever bypass she was able to enact in order for her to get from one place to another was initiated. Now again, is that predicated upon the very specific skill set that Nova possesses, along with all of her information and everything else like that, and can only be done by that one frame with that one instance because of all the extra stuff, like all of her, additional context on top of the fact that she is using Nova, or she is the Nova? That being said, can you inject Nova batch into a Duviri person and then, kind of had the similar thing happen there? Perhaps. I can't see why not. Well, the Dawn's will, that could be because in that moment, something that I was actually saying earlier, is that in that moment, the indifference could have essentially let go for the express purpose of trying to trick the let's say the drifter, and that now it's basically allowed itself to have Rusalka show herself off, which in the grand scheme of things, if that were the case, and at that moment she was, let's say, allowed to re-enter her own mind, because that's kind of what Eleanor specifically says, that's kind of what's going on. But it would make perfect sense that she doesn't know who we are, because Rusalka's never dealt with us before. It's only been the indifference. And then with Albrecht saying, as I said before, kill her now. Because if you do kill her, you will free her mind from this place. And then the Drifter, because we have now taken on the idea that this place is real and these people are all, they important and everything else, he's like, no, I'm not doing it, you do it. And then Entradi says, are you no more of a child than your other? If you can't do this, how are you expected to do what comes next? Well, that's what I'm trying to say is, Dawn, it absolutely could be Rusalka. Because like the Operator and other entities, the Man in the Wall can take people over. People that they've come into contact with. The Operator is the absolute example of that. That there are times when it takes control of us, like seen in the prelude to the New War. Oh, it's definitely not Lloyd. It's what it is the void entity. But what I'm saying is in that moment, because it's using her, it may be able to shapeshift too. Would that be really that out of the question? I mean, we see it really do that. It's absolutely possible that in order for it to do certain things, that it uses a host body. And I think what it all really comes back to is the misdirection that's constantly in play. That you never know who's who and why and when. So all the information that you get from certain sources, depending on when and where you get it, is subject to at least some critical thought. Has to. Right? We don't. We don't. That's another thing. I guess it's just something that I've thought of in the back of my mind multiple times, but I don't think that's the story that Warframe is trying to tell based upon what the story is. But yeah, you're right on that one. Is it possible that Intrati is the mastermind behind all of this and is using the indifference? Yes. Is it likely? I would say no. Just kind of, again, I'm basing it on the story that it looks like Warframe is trying to tell, especially over a long period of time. But could we come to a point where we find out, like when we actually meet Intrati for the first time, right? That in the real Albrecht Intrati is gone, even trapped in the wall, like what Illyria said in her like quote unquote dream. That Lloyd, the construct, then specifically says, no, that wasn't a dream, that happened. You know, where she says, I saw my father. He was trapped in the wall. That, is it possible that, you know, this entity that we've seen this entire time has always been the indifference and it was never Intrati? Or is it possible that this entity has always been doing exactly what Intrati wanted it to do and that it's just been kind of directing things from behind the scenes? Being the ultimate puppet master, without question, definitely possible. Definitely possible. And would still be an awesome story if that's the case. I'm open to either one of them at this point. I'll take either one. Okay. Oh, I think Ballas absolutely had some kind of, if nothing else, there is something that he knows about the indifference. And I think it's one of the main reasons why he always calls the Tenno the devil and the void and everything else like that, because he knows. It's not he's not making it so it's like he's trying to say, oh, the Tenno are evil. He's saying that the Tenno are demons from that hell. Because he knows what that hell is. And maybe has even had some level of contact with it himself. Hijau, that would make all the sense in the world, wouldn't it? If a new dream appeared out of nowhere. Especially now, given what we have seen is possible within the origin system and the Warframe narrative overall. I would argue that the deal with the operator, or with the man on the wall, included the purging of the Tenno and the subsequent however many years of Narmer's reign was the gift. And when Ballas's time as ruler of all was up, because that's one of the things we you know, you don't get a lot of context, but like a lot of time passes between the Tenno getting trapped in the void and the Drifter coming back. A lot of time passes. So all of that time, we don't ever, it's almost, it's weird. It's kind of like in the Bible where Jesus goes from like 12 to 33 and there's this like big section of his life that like doesn't really get talked about much. It's in the same thing, like we leave the system and then it looks like the Drifter comes right back in over the top, but that is not the case. There is a huge amount of time between the Drifter coming back. So you could look at it as that was the Faustian bargain that Ballas gave up. And it's interesting that the end of Ballas's deal would have offered itself the beacon needed for the man in the wall to finally make his way actually fully into the origin system. And to me, that just seems like such a weird coincidence, you know, and the fact that also two entities that are linked intrinsically with the man on the wall were sent to end Balas's time as the ruler. Heralds, if you might even say, in their own right. I mean, it's... Well, I mean, if that's the case, then Balas was able to transform the entirety of the origin system, everybody, into Narmer, not only Narmer slaves, but also he would have to, remember, because all the places in order to make the veils have been created and production has been made of those. In order for the entire system to be taken over, it would require a fair amount of time. That could be the dream. Well, bien, I don't think that the man in the wall cares what you think about that. Floppy, to get the Tenno to do what it needed. Without that seed in particular, the Tenno never grabs the paracesis. Without the man on the wall, the weapon that Balas needed at that moment, utilized on both the Lotus and the Tenno, the operator. Which is funny because, like, weapons don't really work that way on us typically, you know? But in this case, that very specific weapon, without it, without the man in the wall's influence, without the man in the wall using the emotional toll of what happened in the apostasy to lead us down the same path to guarantee that we would follow. Notice it even opened the hole where Balas and the Lotus disappeared from. Now, why do you think it would do that? I mean, it could have just easily opened the hole right at the orbiter. It did that because it knew that we would follow into that hole, given that that's where the Lotus went, and that's what we were looking for. So we go in there. Sure enough, now we're on a sentient ship. That's crazy. And now we kind of go, oh, hey, look, there's Balas. What a crazy-ass coincidence that you would be here like this. And what's even more nuts is that we are on the side of the Lotus, right? This is the nuts part about what the man on the wall can get us to do, and we just fucking do it. We're on the side of the Lotus. We're on the side of the Lotus. Yet all it takes is a little sob story from Balas in order for us to take the weapon that we're supposed to kill the Lotus with. I'm dreaming of drowning. I don't know, but it's scary. Is that what I could see? That's what's kind of happening. Drowning in a sea of void. Actually, poetic, given the verbiage of the Grineer Queen during the War Within. Oh, Floppy, that's easy. Because that's what I just got done saying. We ended the deal. Now again, this is speculation, understand. But we were the ones to close on Balas's deal. Now, why was that the case? Well, because the indifference needed... you're gonna love this. The indifference, in order for it to fully come into this place, right? The indifference required what happened at the end of the New War. And it's right here.
Come on. Let's at least pretend this mess can still work.
Oh, cheer up, sourpuss. There it is. In a deranged attempt to transport himself and cult to Tau, Ballas opened portals between void and conventional reality on an unprecedented scale. This has attracted the attention of the Indifference, whose freedom of action appears to have drastically increased. That thing was the catalyst for everything that would happen next, with Whispers in the Walls, with 1999, all of that. The end of the New War was the catalyst, but that catalyst could only come by Ballas. I mean, at that point, Ballas was pretty much the most powerful individual in the entirety of the Origin system. I would offer more powerful at the end than both the Operator and the Lotus together, because it required a mistake, basically, by Ballas in order for us to be even able to overcome. But regardless, we were sent to close the deal and at the same time give the Indifference what it needed. Floppy, I would say that's the only possible explanation for the paracesis, because that's what I was trying to say earlier. Like, or at least it legitimately wounded the Lotus in a way that we've never seen, and it did something to the Operator that we've never seen. So clearly that sword has very, very specific properties to it. And I would argue, given its effect on the Operator, that's probably because, it was created knowing that it would affect the Operator. And who do you think could have given that information to Ballas? That's, again, no, I don't want to get too much into the next thing, because the Sacrifice quest has itself another little thing, another little clue that tells more of the story. Remember I was saying, like, the kind of the story, it's like, oh, hey, this happened. Oh, just so you know, this happens in this story. Oh, this is the thing that happens in Warframe. Like, different quests keep saying it. Well, the Sacrifice has one, probably the most substantial incident of that occurring. And then you take that information and you apply it to, as I was saying before, if you want to have some fun tonight, what you got to do, you're gonna have to put some time away for this one, okay? It's important. It's up to you, I think, really, what order you play the two quests in. I don't know which one would be better as far as to promote the gotcha moment better. But Chains of Harrow and and the New War, there is this thing, this glowing, glaring through line that goes with them. That, like, all I'm gonna say is if it's true, if it is what it's supposed to be, it explains so much. It explains so much, and it also allows for what I would say a much better explanation of Tenno in the Origin system. Because as it is right now, the way that I'll add this, and then this will be like kind of, I don't want to talk about it anymore because now there's a video. How do I want to say this without giving up too much? I've never liked the idea that all of us are going through the exact same, like, things, right? And that we're like, that every single Tenno is in their quote-unquote own dimension. I just don't like that, because it doesn't make any sense. Like, how the hell do we come together then? Like, so are you saying that in hubs that all the timelines just magically like come together and there's no paradoxes in only these specific places, or during quests and shit like that, because like we all experience the same Warframe
Tenno,
narrative.
our work goes
And
on.
what I'm saying is, what I'm trying to insinuate through what I've asked you to do is true, it explains that in its entirety, and it makes it right. Well, I mean, I think the obvious one with the ducats is the fact that our boy, the Indifference has a copy of Understand, and probably an aspect of it that is somewhat influenced by the personality of Baroque. So it, using that type of let's say, currency, or desiring it for a certain type of thing, not necessarily out of the question. No, the glow in the eyes doesn't seem like an accident, does it? Okay, Zerg, yeah, that. If in fact what I was saying before is like, excuse me, that's absolutely on the table. It's very possible. The only thing that I would say, that would say to me at least, that we may have actually met the real Alberton Trotty is the scene where he's all beat to hell up. That is the only true, in my opinion, proof, or at least evidence of that we've seen the true Albert at this stage, even throughout everything. And I'm even including those messages that we see, because some of those are even kind of questionable in their own right. Well, I mean, well, he's got a little bit of Barreau in there, so just say he's not against that kind of currency. Not at all. What's even more funny is you could think of it as that in the trickster mentality, he knew that by forcing you to use your ducats to make this sword, you would have to go out and farm more for the shit that you're going to give him for your stuff from Barreau. So he got to laugh at you at the same time. Hack himself, hello. Good to see you. Thank you for joining me. No, I definitely wouldn't trust any of those tapes. I think they're a bunch of bullshit. And then there's Captain Vor. Do you see how, like, the void is, like, it's closing in everywhere? I don't know if that was necessarily always the thought process for DE, but I do think that they are completely like diving into everything is being taken over. Everything, we go this place, there's already an aspect. And it's weird because that's what I was trying to, in one of my videos, I actually made the argument that within this past year's quests, right? Every one of the quests had some aspect that was was like secretly void entity related. And I'll give you my example. So obviously you had whispers in the walls. That one, you know, clearly that one goes without explaining. But then we had Dante's update. I can't remember what it was called again. I always forget that one. But anyway, wherein looking through the Laverian, we come to learn this is where the connection between Parvos Granum and the void entity is first actually shown. So now, Quest 1, Hex, Or I mean, quest 1, Whispers in the Walls. You got that one, obviously. So now the Parvis one is another one. So then you actually get more kind of deeper into that. Dante Unbound, thank you very much. In the quest that we get with the Stalker and Jade, and we get, as we're in Intradi's labs during that time, there's more information that's portrayed as to what Parvos is essentially looking for, and why the items from the lab are so valuable to the point that he'd be willing to kind of allow Drusus to pay off the Laverian and potentially even get it back, which, you know, obviously doesn't make any sense from the standpoint of Parvus. You know, there's a lot of crazy shit in there that he probably wants to get his hands on. So even the fact that he's allowing it to be potentially paid back for is pretty substantial. I mean, there's probably something within the labs that's, you know, pretty worthwhile to the guy that he's be willing to kind of forego all the shit that's in the Laverian as being personal ownership for him. That's, you know, what it would be. So then we have Kome, which is, you know, you would think the Kome and the Five Fates is, you know, there's nothing, there's no ties whatsoever, right? But just in the tiniest bit of dialogue, we come to realize that crap, what the hell's her name? I can't remember her name. From Cetus, the woman. It's just, there's too much. There's so much Warframe that I'm losing it. Saya, thank you, Saya, thank you, Saya. So we come to find out, and it's just a passing piece of dialogue. It's very subtle. But that Saya, when she was a young person, when out on the river with a friend, specifically talking about Kome and the idea behind her, and they're discussing, they would, for some reason, they would always hear this very strange knocking, 3 knocks at the bottom of the boat. And they could never figure out where exactly that was coming from. And then, of course, we go to the Hex quest, or you could even make the, I'm sorry, no, next one is the Lotus Eaters. So now we go to the Lotus Eaters, and Lotus herself starts to act, you know, let's be real, pretty messed up. She has these weird robotic kind of movements when you speak to her, and she's doesn't seem to give a shit anymore about the, you know, her child that she wants to give the indifference back to. So that's a very different mentality or mental shift from the Lotus. Now, again, remember, this is all within the same year. And then you have the Warframe 1999 ARG, where we learn that essentially either, you know, at some times or
We've
potentially
had a few
all times
setbacks,
that
but
this
we are going to crack on.
is at any point the man on the wall. And I would offer the possibility that at all times it's the man on the wall, or at least is influenced by the man on the wall. That's what the ARG showed us. And then, of course, you have the Hex quest, which really kind of throws it all right out there for you to really, really take in. That was a whole year of quests from different places, with different people, with different entities. Some entities that should have no connection to the Void, yet they themselves do. Saya? What interest would the Void entity have in her? Which would make a lot of sense,
Samples
wouldn't
over
it?
here, if you please.
It's all connected, everybody. Yoshi, hello! Heck, I would even... you're gonna love this. All the messages, right? First of all, there's a message that we get during the Whispers in the Walls. Now, would everybody agree? I need to I'm just gonna ask this question, and you all need to let me know what your opinion is. Because... Hold on, I'm reading some stuff. Were you sleeping, huh? I feel like at the end of the day, wouldn't you all agree that the messages that we got in the Palm 2 were recordings? I mean, by way of the fact that we could, like, you know, push the button and decide when to play it on our own and stuff like that. But I just want to make sure that everybody else is on that same page before I say what I'm going to say next. Well, Yoshi, as long as you're happy with that move in your existence, then congratulations. Jenny, yeah, that's what he says, at least. At least that she's not happy in any instance that he stays with her. Well, it's always good to balance what you have to do with what you like doing. That's really the key. I don't have the Arcana Prime Incarnate. Huh? If you want, I am able to pick up. So maybe everybody doesn't agree with that concept, but I think that. Right? No. But anyway, I would have to ask if what we saw
Tenno,
here, right, was a recording. How would it have, like, not, or how would it have determined or differentiated who it was speaking to? Because in the very beginning it says Arthur, Tenno. Oh, during the Whispers in the Walls, you know, the Palm 2 recordings that essentially that Albrecht gives back to us, that like kind of explains to us first about not being laid and the vessels, you know, have to repair, rebuild the vessels, and then later when we're in 1999. He explains to us, oh, Tenno, you know, if you're seeing this, your loop has been altered and blah, 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 blah. You know that. Do you remember what I'm talking about now? Well, again, my first thought is that if it's a recording, like, how is Albrecht able to how is Albrecht able to realize, oh, in the recording, oh, Arthur? No, I mean, Tenno. What? How did you do that? Unless it wasn't a recording? But then the crazy part to me is, right? Based upon what we know of different places, and I haven't seen every aspect of everything, every place that Entradi might be in. So, I mean, there could be a reasonable explanation, just one that hasn't been presented yet.
Samples over here, if you please.
It's pretty hard right there, I'm not going to lie. Consider that when Albrecht talks to us, in both of those instances, even though he's supposed to be trapped in 1999, he's speaking from right here. This is the background of the recordings. Here. So if he was recording from here, telling him and the operator that we're both trapped in 1999, how did he do that? This is why the internet was non-negotiable. Absolutely. And it's just more information that leads me to believe that a lot of the stuff that we see in 1999 is fabricated, and maybe even further. Again, the most important thing to remember is if the Void has any ability, but Hawkblade, this area here does not exist in 1999. In order for Albrecht to send us a message saying that we, the Drifter and him, are trapped in 1999, he would have to be trapped in 1999 to send the message, would he not? So then, if that were the case, then why did he send that message from this spot? I mean, that would say that Entrati Labs exists in 1999. Which shouldn't occur because it would be centuries after the fact. Unless these aren't necessarily timelines, rather just void, conceptual embodiments of the void
I'm glad
created.
to be here, but Mr. Lloyd wants to be somewhere else. Where I am, he wants to go from. But when I was where I was, I think this is where I wanted to get to. Look, maybe everyone's here is a there someone else
But
wants.
that's...
Maybe everyone's there is a here someone wants to leave. Maybe that's what all those voices are murmuring about all the time. Will you shut the hell up?
Love that one.
Word to the wise, Tenno.
Well,
do not ask about Bird 1 and 2.
yeah, I kind of already deduced about Bird 1 and 2, buddy. You don't have to worry about that one. I figured it out on my own. Well, see, again, the lab thing with with it pulling something from the void like that, and it's no different than what Kaya's did.
Hey, how's it going?
And in fact,
Are we
it
winning?
could have been an aspect of the blueprint that she used to be able to move things from times. So...
Hope you're having
yeah,
a
you don't see it
lovely
here,
day.
unfortunately. When you
I'll
first
miss
meet
you.
Bird 3, there is a bit of a description about Bird 3, and it says it's currently still in the revival process. And it's a failed experiment, and that would most likely mean that Bird 1 and 2 are the same bird, but they've just been brought to life multiple times as an experiment. Or brought back to life? Floppy, absolutely. But there would still have to be an outside force that would allow it to occur. It wouldn't do that on its own. I mean that it would be something. There is an intelligent design behind what's occurring in the Warframe universe right now. But then, Drusik, how would it get back? Or how would he get back? See, that was the whole thing. That's the thing to me that makes this entire scenario relevant.
Let's at least
Otherwise, this is for
this
nothing.
mess can still work.
And it's why I believe that the 1999 trip, be it to 1999 or most likely a version of 1999, maybe even probably created by Entrati for his own specific needs, because, you know, everything in there served the purposes that he wanted, which is an incredible coincidence in its own right. But my belief is that this does not occur for no reason. It's destroyed so that nothing can get back to 1999 and he cannot get back here. But the Void, and us specifically, when we come here,
One must make the best.
we
of
change
things.
all of that, and it forces Entrati to make another plan. Well, but the infestation's major outbreak is on Eris. The infestation was created by the Orokin, but then when 1999 occurred, there's this idea of a retcon that it's now, it's pre-Orokin. Well, no, the difference was that it probably was created by the Orokin originally, but then in this new iteration, now it's been pre-Orokin. And we may very well find all different instances of different things. New variations of the Orokin. New variations of all different things. That's what I was saying before. There is a cost to this sort of thing. We just don't know what it is yet because we don't have the context to understand. But everything that's going on with this looping and stuff like that, there is a cost. There's a price to be paid. And we will pay it at some point. We've already paid it in some ways. But we don't even understand what we've lost. Yes, but Drusik, we allowed the indifference to get there. It piggybacked off of us through the connection that this particular vessel has with with Arthur.
We've had a few.
The indifference most likely was not in 1999. All up until Whispers in the Walls, where the Tenno allowed it to come back. And if you're wondering if that's true or not, play Whispers in the Walls again. And if you haven't seen it, when you get into Arthur's head, don't go forward, go back. I think the reason why Entrati wants it to be destroyed is because it will sever the proto-frames' consciousness from their existence in 1999 and will force their actual personalities into the vessels that Albrecht wants to use as his weapons against the indifference, making them true warframes. Zerg, I actually think the whole Dark Sector thing is just another situation like what we're talking about. It's another iteration. And I think what's even more interesting is that it's very possible. Agreed, Gamma, but it was largely believed by, I would say, the entirety. And it's even not specifically called out, but in a lot of the different codex pieces and stuff like that, about the infestation stuff, it's insinuated that the Orokin had something to do with its creation. But new dialogue has been added to the Once Awake quest. That's our first iteration into the infestation. When you're a Warframe player, new dialogue has been added that differentiates and says that the infestation is in fact pre-Orokin. That was added in. Was not there in the original quest. Well, I think we're looking, Drusik, we're looking at two different things. True Warframe in the sense of Temple is an actual Warframe, essentially allowing themselves to fully be taken over by the Helminth and become what you're looking at here with Inaris. That is a true Warframe in this regard. What I'm saying is Alberic's intentions, based upon what we see in his notes, were never to create proto-frames. That's not the goal. That was essentially the blueprint that he used in order to create his actual weapons, the vessels. This is what he really wants. This is what the proto-frames are for. He doesn't care that he has Warframes in 1999 because it doesn't serve any true purpose to what he really wants. What he actually wants is the vessels. They're his weapons. And I think that by keeping the Hex within 1999, you are also keeping their consciousness within 1999, and thus keeping these vessels here abandoned and worthless for the grand scheme of things. Because unless the Tenno goes into them, they can't do anything. They just sit here, just like the man on the wall says, abandoned.
Come on. Let's at least pretend this mess can.
Well, I don't think the infestation requires air, just so you know. And I think once Temple becomes Temple and not Flare/Lizzie, all of the gifts of the Warframe, because think about it, like if you're out in space with your Archwing, the Warframes don't require air, so it's probably the same thing. Well, JBN, are they dead or are they just not completed and not being utilized correctly? I mean, clearly they work. We were able to use one.
Well done, lads. Well done.
We were able to use one quite nicely, in fact.
What with the hiding our
Oh, it always happens this way. Once I start getting passionate during one of the streams, after a while, my voice will start to go. Well, I don't know if the man on the wall has an abandoned vessel of his own, but I'm going to tell you something right now. I think that the man on the wall was, if for no other reason, offered one. I mean, without question. Heck, we'll go see it right now. Who's that? Here it is. Now, if you were following the stream from the beginning, you would remember that I talked about the concept that I think that the void is very little science and mostly, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, magic, yeah. Spiritual, ethereal, ephemeral, you name whatever you want. Eldritch, cosmic, whatever. But this is the same type of summoning circle that we see the indifference on the first time that we witness the the void entity within the sanctums, the labs. And anybody else find it weird that there's a vessel here that the man on the wall takes over at some point, specifically with a head that even looks kind of like the man on the wall, you know, the Vitruvian form's head right there, and there's a chair that's literally like positioned right across from it, looking right at it. This is a communion spot. I mean, this was the WARFRAME. This was most likely a vessel that Albert utilized to try to speak to the indifference, if nothing else, because the indifference talks to us, the operator, at numerous times, but the operator doesn't have the same kind of curiosity that Albert does, and I think it's absolutely possible that he could have positioned all this stuff here as a method of trying to speak to it, to get to understand it better. And you know what's crazy is he's not the only individual that has come into contact with the man on the wall who specifically wanted and needed to understand it. I mean, you could make the case that Dante did that, but I would say without question, the one entity that mimics the operator completely, who did the exact same thing in trying to understand the indifference after their encounter, is Rel. Oh, you could absolutely argue that Vor tried to commune with Wally, but the difference is Rel's the best. Well, there's that. All right, I'm not going to go any further on this point here. All I want you to do is just remember, look at the chat right now. Now, let me say what Sword Seizure just said. I'm not saying that. But like I said, I told you all to play 2 quests in particular this evening. And I want you... Of course you did. It's right there. There he is. Well, Floppy, I would actually make the argument that I don't necessarily know that Vor is privy to our deal with the man, okay? And I would actually make the argument that Vor is on the lines of being more like a familiar. If you understand that that like reference, that Vor doesn't have the same type of power that others that have come into contact, but he's kind of like a that's part of the Vitruvian form. If you go and take a look at the Wally form from the New War that comes in at the very end on the Vitruvian like block, the wall, he has these little things, these little like protrusions coming out of the top of his shoulders. Pretty messed up though, right? It could be two figures on the shoulders, but again, if I'm not mistaken, I do think that there's two little protrusions on his Vitruvian form there. Take a look, though. Just I could be off. Yeah, this is the place to come. It's not often you get this good of a view. But let me also put into context that I feel like this also kind of shows that, does it not seem to anybody else that the vessels aren't quite big enough? Like, this looks like it spans a long distance. And whereas the vessel is big, I don't disagree with that. Like, it doesn't seem like they are quite the match size-wise. No, actually, the reason why he looks like that is that's based upon Albric's visage when he has the Orican Sentry, that like his little headpiece on. It's got the two. It's got like the two. The Vor's Janus key. It looks exactly like it, you know, like, but it's got the like the big, not exactly like it, but it's got that same kind of thing with like the big kind of thing, like the half circle on the top. It's actually kind of cool that you can see that other room way in the distance over here. This is well, see, I think this is actually supposed to look like Entrati. That JBN, that's what I said. That's whenever I was reading about like Entrati's like kind of deal, right? That was my thing. I'm like, bro, you need to go bigger, man. This ain't doing it. Yeah, maybe when he says that we still have to rebuild and repair or something, maybe they haven't done growing the vessels. But I'm just telling you flat out that like they're not big enough. They're not big enough. Well, the floppy, that's another thing. We don't know what that Vitruvian thing is. Yes, it could be a vessel. Absolutely, it could be its own form of vessel. Maybe the Wally is even bigger. Maybe Wally doesn't even have a true form, and that it just inhabits certain things. Well, we're certainly going to need a bigger boat. Yeah, Drusik, it's unfortunately, man, Halo. God, what a shame. He sure does. He wants to exist, and he wants to exist right here. That's my whole thing. Like, it's just like, I haven't had a chance to play with the new Tonfas yet, so I don't. They're cooking. But I'm excited. Oh, thank you. Yeah, she's got quite the little look going on. Very happy. And she's not afraid of just getting right in Wally's face out here, too. She'll go. She'll just do it. Oh, maybe. Maybe the vessels still have to grow. Of course, my problem is Gamers, I believe that's not Entrati who says that to us. That's my problem. So I'm concerned that the things that it wants us to do aren't necessarily in our best interest. Well, You know, Andrew, I think that's one of the things about Warframe is that there's so little in the way of what I would call like ultra endgame stuff that you can get away using crap weapons for a large percentage of the game, as long as they're fun in some way. That's really all that really matters. And in the same breath, I'd say even with some of the Warframes too, like that some they're more basic, and then other ones are really intricate, but. There's like a use for everything. If you like it, you can make it work. Yep. Well, she flies right in there. She's the fly right there. You mean like more big bads? Well, it all depends in if there is a differentiation between. I should say a differentiation that exists still between the Void and the Infested, because the Infested may in fact have their own whole thing going on, right? And I would say that there are aspects of the Infested, not all of them, mind you, but there are aspects of the Infested that have a dread fear of the Void, and thus themselves, or that hive mind or that group, may create its own thing to potentially combat the man on the wall. And if you look at, you know, the tech rod and how it's able to just assimilate shit on, you know, a global, global scale, really, like planetary scale, with what it did in like both with Deimos and with Eris. I mean, it could create something large enough, depending on if that is, you know, provided Wally keeps that form and that size. So there could be a larger bad within the infestation still existing. There could be a larger bad within the sentience that we still don't know of. We don't really know much about Pazul or the entity potentially behind that, because Pazul's very interesting in the idea that, you know, Era created the Archons, yet Pazul is using the Creator's body as its own. So it's got its own... Man, where's Trotty? I don't know. Did you ever play the game Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? I think it could be a similar to, like, I don't know if anybody ever watched the show. I mean, I first played the game when I was like in grade school and stuff. It was so much fun. But like the show came out, and if you notice, like the show, like you didn't even find out technically where Carmen Sandiego always was until like the very end. And I don't know. Well, see, what I'm concerned about is that our need or our desire to keep 1999 alive or functioning may be the thing that's keeping the vessels from actually being able to do what they're supposed to do. And if you want a kind of a very similar kind of scenario that's within another quest, within the Whispers in the Walls, a very similar thing occurs between Lloyd with the Grimoire. See, things can't move forward because there's this page of the Grimoire that's curiously kept from the rest of it, and without help from another scenario that should be like kind of outside the realm of that altogether, it never is able to come to fruition because of the stubbornness or the emotionality of a character within the origin system. And if it's required for the Hex and 1999 to no longer exist in order for the vessels to get their, you know, like say, entity, and it's us that is keeping that from occurring, then I don't know if we're doing the right thing or not by keeping them alive. And in fact, the connection that we're making with them may in fact be the thing keeping us from moving forward in the overall plan. I don't even know if there is necessarily a final vessel. I think maybe more so that the vessels just have to be developed in the correct way. They seem unfinished, which that's what they're said multiple times, that the vessels are unfinished. So I'm curious to know what the final form of a vessel is, because I'm gathering from what we know already, or from what we've been told at least, that we have not yet seen that. And what I'm trying to say is the reason why we may have not seen that is because of our own selfish connection to Hulvania, and, you know, more specifically, kind of in the same way that, like, within the Matrix, Neo has to kind of form a different path because Neo himself has made a very specific connection within the Matrix, whereas the previous iterations of the One only like made connections with humanity in a very basic and general way, you know, which is interesting because like there's so much within the Hex quest that is very akin to the Matrix and Matrix Reloaded specifically. So it is kind of interesting to think that it required Neo to create a third option, one that wasn't supposed to be there. That when he walked into the architect's room, the choices given were that he returned back to the source, right, or that he go back to to Zion and essentially die with all of the rest of the people at Zion, because according to the architect, there was a level of survival that the machines were willing to accept, right? So those were his two options. But instead, Neo, through his own unique abilities, created a third, the coin landing on its edge, if you will. And it's very much in line with what the Drifters somewhat being asked to do as well. Ultra Super Saiyan 5, Instinct, Ultra Ego, God Blue. But is of course, that's right. Because they got to talk about the form first. Get beat up, because the other group has to get a form also. Like, you know, like Golden Frieza or Black Golden, Super Black, whatever. This form, you know, they have to get a better one, and only then, once they achieve their next one, can then we finally say, oh, by the way, here's everything that we got. And then it's, you know, it's Super Saiyan God, Super Vessel 2, Kaioken times 20, Super Ascended Ultra Saiyan 5. Form. Oddme, that's exactly what Entrati is asking us to do. And in fact, he specifically, he poses it to the Drifter in the way of, dude, do you not see all the shit that I've done? I don't want to do this, but I have to do it. It's not that I do you not see, do you not, what was, how did he say? Hold on, I gotta get the exact thing, because I'm not gonna do it justice otherwise. I just got to get the exact right words, because it's not going to hit the same way. He says, are you no more of a child than your other? Do you think I am not haunted by these choices? Meaning what he's saying is that, dude, Do you not think that I don't feel everything that I've had to do as well? I've had to leave the people that I love, that I've had that I felt the need to kill off entire species and shit that, in order to stop this thing. Do you not think that I have not dealt with the gravity of the choices that I have to make? And that's exactly what he's asking us to do. JBN, you really need to play the Chains of Harrow and the new war together after what you just said. I promise you, if you keep what you just said in mind, you are going to come away with that with a holy shit. Oh, man. See, Andrew, I think what he's saying there is that he does. And I think what he says to Lloyd in the page that was kept back is indicative of that he does in fact feel. He does in fact struggle with all the things that he does. Now understand something, this is important. Just because you feel the negativity of horrific choices that you've made, right? That doesn't make you a good person. It doesn't make you a good person at all. In fact, it keeps you the monster that you've always been. The difference is that you are a monster with purpose. And again, this is another thing that Entradi himself says. Hold on, let me get to it. Now this would be within okay. It says, I felt no uncertainty as I donned clothes rough and strange to the touch of new-grown skin. I had none of the selfless zeal of the soldier. The same cursed question still pursued me as it had before. Was I, even now, trapped in the rictus of the wall? The apparatus of logic would never yield an answer. Only resolute action remained. If I must be a demon, let me be an honest one. Let me prove my nature by what I do next. Let me leave such blazing footprints behind me as to no unclean thing would dare walk in. And I believe what Entradi is saying to us right there is that if he has to be this, if this is what it requires to fix the mistake that he made in potentially giving form to an eldritch being that is slowly, at least in his mind, appearing to take over the entirety of all existence from different perspectives. What he's saying is, if I have to be a demon to stop this, then so be it. And that is the struggle of Albrecht and Entradi. That there is a difference between feeling indifference and choosing indifference. And that's what a lot of people, I think, miss about the concept of the indifference, is that they're not the same thing. Having no feelings about a particular thing and just being willy-nilly, and I don't care what happens, that's one thing. But feeling horrible things that you do to people, but believing in your heart that the only way to save everything is by doing it is one of the hardest things that any individual can do. Because you've chosen indifference. You've chosen to basically say, I have to take everything that I am and everything that I feel, and I have to put it aside, even when it goes against things, because this is the only way to save everything. And if you've seen The Watchmen, the movie or the comic, you know what this is all about. Because in fact, the exact same thing is presented at the end of that, where essentially you have a world just about to fall into nuclear war. From all sides, all different countries at each other's throats. And Ozymandias, who is working with, probably the closest thing to the things that we see in Warframe, Dr. Manhattan, in order for them to derive, well, in the movie at least, in order for them to derive free-flowing energy, free energy, so that there wasn't a need for war anymore. That was the way it was postulated, but that is not what Ozymandias was trying to do. Instead, he was utilizing, because he knew that even if he made energy free, that people would just try to figure out a way to monetize it anyhow, and wars would never end. So he knew the only chance that he had was to unify the entire world together. And he did that by lying to Dr. Manhattan, telling him that he was using Manhattan's power and his intellect to try to figure out a way to create free energy. But in the comics, used it to create this crazy, insane, huge monster thing that had Dr. Manhattan's energy signature all over it, and led everybody to know that it was in fact Manhattan who this whole thing came from. And because of this, the world unified together to fight this threat, and thus exiled Dr. Manhattan and came together under these completely false and unbelievable and horrific circumstances. But they came together. Now in the movie, instead of using it to create a monster, he blows up all the biggest cities, the major heartbeats of all these different countries, all at once, using the power that Dr. Manhattan has utilized in the past, a one-to-one copy, letting everybody in the whole wide world know that, hey, Dr. Manhattan has now turned on us all. And the only way for us to survive is for us to come together as an entire planet to fight this. And what's crazy is at the end, Ozymandias brings aspects of the Watchmen to come down. They kind of figure out what's going on and where Ozymandias has now situated himself. And Dr. Manhattan shows up, and the Owl shows up, and and Rorschach shows up, and they're here to confront Ozymandias about this. But he tells everybody his greater goal and what the idea behind it was. And whereas the Owl and Rorschach and Mrs. Jupiter can't handle it, Dr. Manhattan, on the other hand, has a very, very, I love this line, and in fact, I'm using it in my script, by the way. He says, after Ozymandias explains the thing, he says to Ozymandias, not to condone or condemn, but I understand. And he allows it to happen. Now, Andrew, yeah, You can be consumed with your own shadow. It's one of those things. But again, understand that that person can't see that. In their mind, they're still feeling all of this. Even though they're consumed, that doesn't mean that they're not feeling the deaths that they're on their hands, or the people that they've put, in horrible situations, or the injuries, poverty-stricken, you name it. That doesn't mean that they don't feel it. It's just that their beliefs are so ingrained and necessary into what they have been consumed by that they're willing to accept. They can feel every bit of it. And Ozymandias actually even says in the thing, because they talk to him about it, like, they say, how can you do this? And Ozymandias says to them, I have made myself feel every single death that has occurred, so that he understands the fully the sacrifice that had in his mind that had to be done. So my point is that Albrecht feels all of the horrible things that he's done. But in the same breath, if it's, and again, he would have some, probably, I mean, better than anybody else, of an understanding of what might be useful in order to combat the indifference. But I would say there is one person in the Warframe universe who knows how to handle the indifference much better. And in fact, was the only one who could handle the indifference. Because they were uniquely suited to do so. But now we're getting way too much into the next video and whatnot. And unfortunately, everybody, I have other things that I must attend to today. So we have come to the end of today's stream. I'll say it again, if you have free time this evening, and it's going to be a good bit of free time, mind you. Make a point to play the new war, Chains of Hera, together, and see if anything kind of sticks out as a kind of something that really sounds a lot, really similar between the two quests. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. That's all I can. That's all I can give you anymore today. Boo! I know. Boo me. Boo. Yes, I will be doing a Sunday stream and membership stream tomorrow. So all those things will be happening. So keep tuned to the channel if you are looking to discuss all things Warframe again. And with that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful rest of your weekend if I don't speak with you, and I'll talk at you all in the next one. Take care, everybody.